So nice to have you here, Todd.
Well, it's great to be here in Amsterdam with you, Mark.
Right.
Thanks for having me.
It's been an amazing couple of years following your journey on Instagram.
Yeah, well, and likewise, Powland TV is like totally taken off.
It is. It has been a personal project 3 years now, and it all started from the modular community, basically.
And what a great community the modular community is.
What a great community is, indeed. So yes, that's why we are really excited to have you here today. For the audience listening again, tuning in, thank you for taking the time to listen to this third podcast. Really excited to have you here again.
Great to be here.
And well, maybe it's nice to start from the beginning. Where are you born?
I was born in California.
California.
Yeah. And eventually moved to Oregon, where I live now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Portland.
Ashland, actually.
Ashland.
Yeah. It's at the other end of the state. Portland's at the top of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Ashland's right at the bottom.
So it's really relaxed and a lot of forests.
Yep, forests, mountains. Yes.
Oh, that's
nice.
That's amazing. And how was it growing up in California?
It was great. I mean, I lucked out and had really good music teachers in the public schools from, day one, even, So all the way through from kindergarten to graduating, and then got to go to conservatory.
Mm-hmm. So. And your parents were from a musical background, or were you
Not at all.
So you were the rebel.
Total rebel. But thank goodness they supported me.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. And what is the background music-wise? You say you started with music. What was your first flame? What ignited your music flame?
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, we had a piano, and I remember playing around. It was an upright, so I would pull the wood off and play the bottom strings instead of the keyboard. So
Right.
I remember that was a big draw. And then at the age of 8, I was studying trumpet, and I really enjoyed that. And that stayed with me for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then high school, I ended up starting to play early music, like Renaissance, Baroque, on recorders, not tape recorders, but the physical wood recorders.
Wood recorders. Can you explain to the audience that has been born from the 90s what a wood recorder is?
Yeah, it's like a fipple flute. It has finger holes, and you blow through a whistle type thing.
Amazing. We need to look it up.
Right. Yeah, and they come in different sizes.
Right.
Yeah. So from there, I was really fascinated with early music, and started performing on the West Coast, and started to do a lot of performances in the 70s in Portland, and met a fellow named Douglas Leedy there, and he turned me on to his Buchla music easel in 1976. And what I loved was that with early music, I loved the timbre, the colors of all the different instruments, and also the fact that they weren't trying to articulate each note exactly the same, which seemed to be sort of where the conservatory was wanting, classical trumpet players to go. And so when he showed me his easel, it was like, oh my goodness, I can discover tone colors, timbres that I didn't know existed, and I can actually create them. So that's where it really started for me.
And that was in the 70s?
Yeah, mid-70s. And then, of course, I couldn't afford an easel. I don't think anybody could afford an easel in 1976.
What were the prices back in the days?
I think it was like $10,000, which is still $30,000 today. And there weren't that many of them. So saved up some money and got a Surge system.
Right.
And that's
the French
yeah,
engineer.
right. Serge Trepnin.
Very close to that approach of a bukla.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever, because for the audience that is not aware of what bukla means or entails, have you ever met the creator, the originator, Don Bukla?
Yes, I did meet Don a few times and talked with him on the phone. But, yeah, no, he was quite the amazing designer of sound,
right?
And instruments, electronic music instruments.
It was an amazing era, maybe also a lot of experimentation with LSD. And
he definitely was doing that,
right?
And his friends,
right?
And they would actually take these easels out into the woods with a big car battery to drive it.
Right. Because that's what you basically experience a bit when diving into this wonderful world of West Coast synthesis, right? It's just it has this fire, this spark from the free jazz world, but then you can take it to whole new directions because you can shape your own sound. Could you maybe give a little sound for the audience just tuning in that want to know what does the bukla sound like?
Well, yeah, of course. If I choose one note, maybe we can just play with that for a second.
Right.
Don had a thing called wave folding that he developed, which if you move this slider really slowly, you get to hear all these new harmonics come in.
So rich.
And they're always changing. And then you can modulate that.
Feels like a really deep sound bath. And these are just basically two oscillators going against each other, right? Or is this more happening?
Yeah, no, it's two oscillators. They're actually sort of in tune, and so when I modulated them, you got that sort of beating sensation.
Right. And so, but yeah, fascinating, and it feels very much alive, right?
Yeah.
It's just continuously changing, and it's very an acoustic.
I totally agree with you. I mean, Don was all about creating sounds that hadn't been heard. He didn't want this to imitate violins, flutes, anything like that. But his sensibilities, especially with what we call the low-pass gate, give this sort of acoustic resonance to these newly discovered and created sounds that you can come up with. So, I mean, maybe we can what do I mean by that?
Yes. What does a low pass gate do?
Well, it can be. Let's see if we get. That's what we have here. So that's basically just hearing it, sort of a standard low pass filter. Hear that wow, and clearly I have a little scratchy slider in there.
I also hear a nice...
And then that's the wave folding again. But if I start pinging this... It has... I know this is really subtle, but each iteration is not exact. It's not as if I was doing let's see if I can do a... Well, that's going through a low-pass gate too. Yeah, that's the thing about Don's thing. Everything sounds human. Yeah. Instead of being...
You can create like wind sounds, or it's just...
And then if I... all these different variations in timbre just from that one.
Right.
Yeah, and then
for people at home experiencing ASMR, this is an instrument highly addictive.
mm-hmm.
You can listen for hours to these sounds, and it makes your ears warm. And it's not about the end results, but more about the process. Very much a jazz approach, don't you think?
Yeah, free improvisation. I guess free discovery.
Free discovery, right? So now we're at the bongo level. For the audience listening, the easel is generating every sound you're hearing right now. We don't have any effects or pedals behind it. I think we do hear a great reverb tank inside the easel, so we have a little bit of reverb.
And we can add some more. How's that? Or we can do this.
That's amazing. They can listen to it for hours. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's really therapeutic. It's
indeed.
Yeah, it's an instrument. It's complete, right? Modular synthesis is basically known for building your own system in a way that you can pick the modules you like and create your own unique ways. But with an easel, you have everything.
Everything's there, yes.
I think that was Don's intention also, maybe.
Yeah, well, he thought of it as an instrument to be performed on. I mean, it was a performance instrument, and that's why it comes in this suitcase and has this little pressure, and they would call it pressure sensitive. It's actually body capacitant plates.
Right.
That's laid out like a keyboard, but it doesn't necessarily have to respond like a keyboard.
Right.
You can re-pitch things, or have it be a filter, control filter things, modulation. Yeah.
And what do you think about this whole movement, basically, of all these young kids? Can imagine seeing these artists from born maybe in the 90s, 2000, some completely diving into this, not really having the history and the level of knowledge where everything came from, but just enjoying the sounds and taking it further.
I think that's great. I think that's, I can't speak for Don, but I know I've talked to friends that knew him even better than I did, and he wanted people to take it further. And in fact, he was famous for not giving you much information on the modules, that that are in the larger Buchla module systems, so that he could be surprised and have somebody that doesn't understand the module come up with things, be non-presumptive. Because if you ask, well, what's it do and how do I make it do this, that sort of limits your approach to it. Then you're trying to make it do something, as opposed to, I have no idea, and why don't I just keep, making connections and seeing what works, what doesn't work, and discovering new sounds. So yeah, I love that people are coming to it unpresumptively.
What were your first synthesizers you bought?
The first synthesizer I actually bought was a Surge, a 3-panel Surge.
Surge.
Yeah.
That's a good start. For me, it was Peter Blasser, Plum Butter.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, there you go. Right.
Sort of like the same banana obsession.
Banana obsession and really no keyboards.
No keyboard and no explanation of how the synth works.
Right. Yeah.
Just go.
Yeah. I think that's really important, to just go, to just discover and be curious.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, I got to write for orchestras, taiko drum ensembles, Mid-Eastern ensembles, whatever I could dream up, whatever the director sort of needed. So, yeah, I got to do music every day.
Wow. Well, that's amazing, right? And you mentioned taiko, Japan, the famous drumming ensembles and rhythms. Where did you got your eyes on the Japanese? Because I've also seen you playing the shakuhachi.
Yeah, shakuhachi.
Shakuhachi. Yeah. Wow, that's so deep, right? I can imagine from trumpet to shakuhachi. It's a bit of an...
That's a different, it's a completely different world. I got into shakuhachi in, I guess, the 80s. And I had heard one, actually a professor of mine, former professor, came through town, through Ashland, and stayed for a couple of days. And he had a shakuhachi he just picked up on the street in Berkeley. It was probably not a very good one, but I heard him play it. And
Still have it?
No,
Oh.
no, it was his.
Oh, okay.
But I ended up buying a very cheap one, which was not very good. But soon after that, what drew me to it again was the tone colors and the timbres and the way you can spin on a dime musically. You know, you can go from something that's very percussive and full of wind to something that's very thin and veiled and mysterious.
Right.
And so then I sought out a master and drove from Ashland down to Berkeley, California, which is like a 5-hour drive once a month to study.
Wow. I thought my 1 hour drive to our new farm residency. Okay.
Yeah.
Quite some dedication. So it was a real obsession. Like
a complete obsession. I'm still obsessed with all things
Right.
Japanese. So,
all things Japanese.
it probably came also when I was a teenager. I found an album by the great Japanese composer Toru Takemitsu. And on one side was a piece for strings, orchestra, and soprano, which was very abstract. And on the flip side was two of his musique concrète pieces. One based on a water drop, the other one based on the Japanese word ai, which means love. And he's, totally used the tape, musique concrète tape techniques to speed it up, slow it down, repeat it, totally transmogrify it. And I just became fascinated with not only the concrete piece on side 2, but the orchestral colors and tones and the way he was taking the soprano all over the place. So
we need to put some audio underneath this to make a reference. You need to hook us up.
I will do.
That's amazing.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
So we're listening to a Heron dance.
Right.
Ursula K. Le Guin. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Poetry.
Yeah. And music of the Kesh.
Music of the Kesh, right? Because we have been asking our audience what questions shall we ask, and we had a couple like, will you be touring with the Kesh Ensemble in the near future?
No, I did in New York and also at the Unsound Festival in Krakow, Poland, a couple of years ago. But and that was really great experience and nice to sort of bring this music from, that I'd worked on with Ursula 83 and 84, and it came out in 85. So it was nice to bring it back. But no, I have no plans of continuing that. I think as wonderful as it is to have it the live, the recording, it was originally released with the book, which was something that Ursula pioneered. Nobody had released a book and a cassette together. sort of drove the publishers nuts because they had to retool and figure out how to do a hardcover slipcase that has the book and the cassette in it. And we worked for about 2 years on getting that, developing, creating the music. So, and then that was the initial, and intended use is to have the cassette with the book. So I'm going to leave it in that context.
Right.
A river song.
A river song. You recorded the water? Or is this a rainmaker you're hearing?
No. Actually, all the sound effects. Actually, I did field recordings for all the background sounds, and most of them were recorded at Ursula Le Guin's family homestead in the Napa Valley, where basically this book is set in a different time, thousands of years away from us. But I spent 5 days there with a recorder actually sitting in a field, listening to the world wake up and recording it. And at night we'd sit by the campfire and I'd record that, and Ursula would speak Kesh over it live. And then actually the rain and thunder you're hearing here, I recorded at my cabin in the high Sierras. So still in California.
It's very intimate and very, very personal, huh?
Yeah. And this piece is interesting because it was the first poem that Ursula sent me. And I wrote this immediately. And but the words were in English.
Right.
And so I asked her, so do the Kesh speak English? And she said, darn you. No, they don't. And she basically stopped writing and took 6 months to create a language, so that then after this point, all the poetry I got was in Kesh. And so
she created her own language.
Yeah. And had to teach me. I had to learn the language so that then I could actually write music and have singers sing it with the correct pronunciation and inflection.
That's amazing. It sounds like a dream collaboration.
Yeah, it totally was.
Beautiful.
Speaking of Ursula, today is International Women's Day.
Right. That's very well put.
Yeah.
So we're celebrating and very powerful, inspirational women.
Yeah. And today I was, thinking of all the women electronic composers that are out there. And
what were your favorite women female electronic composers, or still?
Yeah. So, how long do you have?
Well, just
no.
very.
So, I mean, Pauline Oliveros, of course, started
deep listening.
Yeah. Eliane Radic, Bibi Baron, as in Bibi and Louis Baron, Suzanne Shawnee, Caitlin Aurelia Smith, speaking of Buchla, Bana Hafar, then going back to the roots, Delia Derbyshire out of BBC Radiophonics, Daphne Oram. Who else do we have out there? Oh, I'm falling in love with Beatrice Ferreira. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name. She's Argentinian, and really amazing electronic and sound art coming together.
What is it that you are aiming for with this exploration? Is this a never-ending quest, or do you hear something in the future that you want to reach? And what is it that you want to reach? Is that
I guess I don't hear anything in the future that I want to reach. Rather, it's a daily exploration. In a way, it's a meditation. It's a sound journal, if you will. And that sort of on its own, just continued exploration, discovery, eventually suggests maybe a piece. I mean, I don't have a particular sound or anything I'm looking for at the moment. I have projects, but those are, beyond just the easel. So yeah, what I have here is a patch that if I touch it would be if I'm going to touch middle C on the keyboard, right?
Go for it. Challenge.
Okay.
If only all pianos sound like this
Yeah.
in the middle C.
Now I'm going to touch it again, and I have no idea what it's going to sound like. It's not going to sound like that. And touch it a third time. So I can keep exploring just that one key.
I think Brian Eno also put it very well, like seeing this type of exploration or comparing it with being a gardener. You're having the plants in your garden, you give them water and some guidance, put up some rules, but then you let it grow and you get inspired by the things that are evolving in front of you. So it's a beautiful play basically with the unknown. Is that something you can agree with?
Totally. Yep.
Yeah, I can.
You
listen.
may play. Yeah, touch a key.
Touch a key. I will do this. That's amazing. I can imagine it works very well for sound designers.
Yeah.
But it's also a challenge to, if you're really after something, to say, okay, this is it.
Yeah. Right,
when do you know?
Right.
When do you know it's done? It's funny because I had I didn't touch my easel for maybe 6 months or so. Very busy with other projects, and I put it on, just 3 seconds, and it was already like, okay, this is perfect. I can quit. I can quit again.
Right.
So it makes me also a very lazy musician, and lazy is good in a way because then you can think of other things. But there are way more difficult methods to create these sounds. So it's very exciting. If you can give an advice to the youngsters right now to listen to one record, what would it be?
I don't know. It's always hard to come up with that because I think there's about 100 they should listen to, and I'm not going to be.
I know it's not a fair question.
Yeah. What's your answer?
My favorite record is Silence. No, for real, Silence is my real inspiration, not the instruments anymore. The instruments just create beautiful frameworks for it, but I'm trying to achieve really like a minimalistic approach to things. I think that's what you both are after.
Well, and that brings up a good point. Rather than coming up with a specific one piece or album, what you just triggered is I would just, my practice is listening. And I'm lucky enough that I can wake up in the morning and walk into the woods and I practice what Pauline Oliveros suggested, which is listen to the sounds closest to you, which might be the rustling of your jacket or the crunch of your boots on gravel or on twigs. And then you might actually become aware of your breathing and hearing that. And then listen to the farthest away sound, which in my case, sometimes depending on the weather and the angle, I might hear a train horn way off in the distance. And then start listening to everything in between. And in the stereo, it's not stereo, it's a 360-degree field of sound. And that I've learned more about orchestration, mixing, transitions, in one thing becoming another by just listening.
Welcome. So maybe we can finish this beautiful, I'll call this seance, beautiful atmosphere with some improvisation. I put some background sounds behind it. I would like to thank the listeners for tuning into this podcast. We will doing this way more often in the future, and we really are thankful for your time. Of course, our special guest, Todd Barton, thank you for being in our studio, and amazing to see you in the Netherlands, of all places.
Well, thank you, Mark. It's great being here. And speaking of, being in one's room, I mean, this is the first time we have been able to meet, and so it's great.
It's amazing. Awesome. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.